What's happening, you guys? I'm TJ Harmon, aka Rel2G on YouTube, overrated_Rel on Twitter. Thanks for joining me for this week's edition of my NFL weekly picks for the 2014-2015 NFL season. We're near home stretch. We're on week 15. Week 14 has come and gone. I went 11-5 in last week's picks, and unfortunately, one game that just didn't settle me at all. That was that game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles. This is where I'm going to rant at you guys, so please bear with me. The Seattle Seahawks win the game by 10 points. Why? Because of bad fucking officiating. Dave Correnti and his crew really messed up big time. I wondered if the league seeing what others were seeing, even the TV analysts and the commentator seeing what we saw, what I saw, what Chip Kelly saw, what the whole freaking nation saw. Seattle get away with a lot of penalties. Several different calls on intentional grounding from Russell Wilson. He got called one time, but he did it 6 or 7 other times. Correct me if I'm wrong. He should have been penalized, but they did not see that. Then also, Brandon Fletcher was penalized for a pass interference. Clearly, the intended receiver had also given Fletcher. They both were given contact. Should have been offsetting penalties, but no, they gave the penalty to Fletcher. And then the penalty that wasn't called was the tripping penalty that Mr. Big Mouth Richard Sherman tripped Nolan Carroll Jr., but Carroll was able to hold his balance and attack that punt return before he can go any which way he could and did not get nowhere just for that. So with that, officiating, bad, it was very, very atrocious, and they need to get it together. The league need to look at that and make sure that something like that in the big game never happens again. They could have been doing something illegal for all we know. So with that, I have to say that was the worst game of the week, for the game of the week, the Eagles and Seahawks. It should have been a better game than that because the officials let them go how they went with the game. But calling penalties is a must. Now that I got that out of my chest, let me tell you what I'm going to do differently this week. I'm going to give you first, before I get my picks this week, I'm going to give you my against the spread picks, something I've been trying to do but wasn't really quite sure. But I think I got the against the spread picks for each teams, 4 teams that I got for you this week. And I'm also giving you my overall picks for the teams that are playing in these games this week as well. So here we go with our week 15 picks. But first, here are my 4 teams against the spread. My first against the spread picks will go in the game between the Green Bay Packers and the Buffalo Bills. The Packers are 5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to tell you to pick the Packers minus 10 over Buffalo, because right now the Packers are just pounding up points after points, and it's just a matter of knowing that it could be possibly more. Because Buffalo on the offensive side, not really good. Defense, great, but offense is just horrible. But they're still clinging on to a playoff. They're clinging on in the AFC East. It could possibly go down to one thing or another, but I'm going to tell you to pick Green Bay minus 10 over Buffalo. My second against the spread pick is going to be in a game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Ravens are 13.5-point favorites at home against Jacksonville. I'm going to pretty much say the same thing, so I'm going to tell you to pick the Ravens 13.5 points over the Jaguars in Baltimore. My third over the spread pick will go in a game between the Denver Broncos and the San Diego Chargers game. The Broncos are 4-point favorites in this game. This could be a tight game, a very, very tight game. It could be another 7-point win for the Denver Broncos on account of Manning passing it off for 2 touchdowns and maybe even getting a pick 6 from Phillip Rivers to the Broncos defense. So I'm going to go from those 4 points for Denver, and I'm going to tell you to give the San Diego Chargers plus 7 over the Denver Broncos in that game. And then my last against the spread pick, I'm going to pick it between the game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Philadelphia is 3.5-point favorites in this game. This will not be a blowout compared to that 31-3 blowout win over the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. Boy, I was full that night, and I'm quite sure the Cowboys didn't even have dinner yet, but they just played quite atrocious. They even shut down DeMarco Murray, kept them from getting even at least 80 yards, and man, Tony Romo was sacked at least 5 or 6 times in that game, I believe. But this is going to be a different game. You got the Road Warriors of the Dallas Cowboys 6-0 after the Eagles lost their first home game of the season, so that makes them 6-1. So the Eagles won in this road trip for the Cowboys, road wins, and give them their first loss of the season. So this could be an interesting game. I'm going to tell you to pick the Philadelphia Eagles -6 over the Cowboys in Philadelphia. Here are my weekly picks for this week's games. Thursday Night Football, we got the Arizona Cardinals on the road facing the St. Louis Rams. This is going to be a good game. Both offense looks great. Remember, the Rams are still shutting out teams. 2 straight shutouts, one by the Raiders 52-0, and the Washington Redskins on the road 24-0. This is not going to be a shutout game at all, because the Cardinals' offense is good. Their defense is better. The Rams are favored to win this game, and I'm going to pick the Rams in my upset pick this week to beat the Cardinals at home to play spoiler to Arizona chances and getting that #1 spot in the NFC. So I'm going to tell you to pick the Rams over the Cardinals in an upset on Thursday Night Football. Sunday, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road facing the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons losers last week to the Packers, not by much. It was a close game than anybody had expected it to be, and the Steelers just ran away from the Bengals in that fourth quarter. This is going to be a good game. Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, but I'm going to tell you to pick the Steelers on the road to beat the Falcons. We got the Green Bay Packers on the road facing the Buffalo Bills. What the heck am I talking about? The Packers all over the Bills on the road in Buffalo. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the road facing the Cleveland Browns. Johnny Manziel will make his NFL start for the Browns this week. They should have let him start last week, even though they lost with Hoyer as their quarterback, making it a game officially by the Indianapolis Colts, but not to be. Mike Pettine went ahead and got Manziel early part of this week, so he's going to keep him as the starter for possibly the remainder of the last 2 games of the season, should they still make the playoffs or not. But this is a very close game because the Bengals lost to the Browns at home on the Thursday night early part of this year, and I still don't have no faith in Andy Dick or Andrew D. Dalton, so I'm going to tell you to pick the Browns at home to beat the Bengals in a tight one in Cleveland. We got the Houston Texans on the road facing the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, I have beaten the Texans at home at Lucas Oil Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs are at home facing the Oakland Raiders. I'm going to tell you to pick the Chiefs to come back to beat the Raiders after the Raiders beat them in their first meeting in the rain-driven Coliseum on a Thursday night. Chiefs at home will beat the Raiders on Sunday. We got the Miami Dolphins on the road facing the New England Patriots in the AFC East battle. Of course, the Patriots are first in the AFC East division, and their Dolphins are right around there. This is going to be a close game, but I'm going to tell you to pick the Patriots at home to beat the Dolphins. The Washington Redskins on the road facing the New York Giants. Washington is just pathetic. Jay Gruden, who told them that he'd even be a coach? Because he don't know how to coach. He couldn't control Robert Griffin III when he was the quarterback. He couldn't control Colt McCoy when he was the quarterback. They keep flip-flopping, and they got shut out by the Rams last week, and it was just a disaster. And I know Deshaun Jackson may want to get out of there, but he's got to stick with this contract that he has, and things could get better, or could it get worse? But anyway, I'm going to tell you to pick the G-Man at home to beat the Redskins. Odell Beckham Jr., 3 touchdown passes by Eli. Watch when I tell you. We got the Baltimore Ravens at home facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to tell you to pick the Ravens at home to beat Jacksonville. The Carolina Panthers at home facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cam Newton was injured in a two-car accident and his truck flipped over twice, and he was released from the hospital. But he's got the same type of injury like Tony Romo did early part of the season, so he's probably unlikely not going to play. This is my opinion. I don't think he will play, so I'm not sure who's the second or third string quarterback is for the Panthers. So I'm going to tell you to get the road team of the Buccaneers to beat the Panthers in Carolina. Late games, we got the Tennessee Titans at home facing the New York Jets. This is my trash, garbage game of the week. Both teams are 2-11. Geno Smith almost got the win in Minnesota last week, but they failed to do so, and Tennessee just couldn't do anything last week at all. So I'm going to tell you to finally get the Jets. I said they wasn't going to win any more games this season, but I'm going to pick the Jets on the road to beat the Titans in Tennessee. The Denver Broncos on the road facing the San Diego Chargers. Of course, the Broncos beat the Chargers back in Denver early part of the season, but I'm going to tell you to pick the Denver Broncos once again on the road to beat the Chargers, this time in San Diego. It's the Detroit Lions at home facing the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings going to make this a very close game. Teddy Bridgewater now knows what he's doing with that offense of the Vikings, and Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson, Megatron, and just that caliber of Golden Tate, and the Lions gonna put some little punches to the Vikings. It's gonna be a close game, but I'm gonna tell you to pick the Lions at home at Ford Field to beat the Vikings. The Seattle Seahawks are at home facing the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are desperate right now for a win, even though they're pretty much out of the playoffs. But even if they lose this game, they're still going to be out regardless what the Cardinals do against the Rams tomorrow night. The 49ers look like they just completely collapsed. Just collapsed. After that win against the Eagles, they really haven't really done anything ever since. Really nothing major, nothing big. They lost to the Raiders of all teams last week. Who loses to the Raiders, especially down by the bay? Jim Harbaugh, I think, will probably be traded to the Raiders after the season. You wait when I tell you. It's possible that could happen, but Seattle is just going to annihilate the 49ers at home. CenturyLink Field. Seattle just too much for the 49ers in that game. Sunday night game is Philadelphia Eagles at home facing the Dallas Cowboys round 2. Again, this will not be a blowout by no means. The Cowboys are going to put up points, and so will the Eagles. The Eagles are going to make sure they're going to put up points because of the bad officiating that they got against the Seahawks last week. So hopefully the officiating will be much, much better in favor of the Eagles to beat the Cowboys at home on Sunday Night Football. And on Monday night, it's the Chicago Bears at home facing the New Orleans Saints. Both teams with 5-8 records. Pretty much whoever loses is out of the playoffs. Even though I don't really think Jay Cutler is even going to be that same quarterback that he was. Matter of fact, his job is in jeopardy, and so is the coach's Mark Trestman. I don't think they have no chance over the Saints, even though the Saints lost a big game against the Panthers at home. They want to get on the road in cold Soldier Field on Monday night and just put a beat down on the Bears. Drew Brees and company need to do that to keep their playoff hopes alive in the NFC South, because it's still up in the air. I'll tell you to pick the Saints over the Bears on Monday Night Football. Those are my Week 15 picks, as well as my 4 against the spread picks this week. Thanks for joining me. I will see y'all right back here next week. The playoff picture gets even tighter. Somebody's going to clinch this week. Somebody may clinch next week. We just have to wait and see who helps who and who does the job and who's going to be a team that's going to be on the outside looking in. I'm TJ Harmon, aka Rel2G on YouTube, _Rel on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all right back here next week for Week 16. So then, see ya.